The last topic is challenges to workplace relationships. And it's certainly going to be all kinds of things that are going to make a workplace more difficult. So let's take a look at a couple of them. The first one is bullying. The second one is romances. And the last one is sexual harassment. I think every term I'm put in a situation, since I teach for 3 different schools, I actually get to go through at least once a year the sexual harassment training, the FERPA training. I've been doing bullying the last couple of years, at least for some of the schools I teach for. So I actually go through it every term. So this is really common, and I think most of the time you only have to go through it when you're first hired. But an environment like a college environment, we pretty much go through it once a year. I get to do it 3 times, once for each school. Awesome. But hey, I know a lot about sexual harassment. Lots of training on that one for sure. So let's take a look at first at workplace bullying. And bullying doesn't feel good. I don't care where you're at, whether it's in school or if it's at home, or if you have some kind of outside social situation, it doesn't feel good, and it can have some pretty detrimental impacts on people that are in those environments. So there's a couple of different ones that they mention here in the textbook, and the first one is isolation. That's when somebody is set aside from the rest of the coworkers. Maybe they go out and do activities and things, but they don't invite this person. Probably doesn't feel very good for that person. Not sure why someone would want to make that decision or choice, but it does happen. There's a control of information. This is pretty, I'll call it subversive, like under the table, but giving false information to somebody, blocking information from them, keeping them from getting that information. Kind of scary to think about somebody doing this kind of thing in a professional environment, but it does happen. A person could constrain somebody's professional responsibilities, so assign tasks to somebody else or give you tasks that aren't necessary or useful, intentionally leaving you in a situation where you don't have anything to do. Putting you in a dangerous work situation, that's kind of frightening. So put you in a situation where you might have a life-threatening situation where someone might put you in a situation. Yeah, I think that one talks for itself. Verbal abuse, so making statements under the table, under their breath, saying something to somebody else, and then actually going out and attacking the other person, exaggerating the importance of something that happened, of errors, of these kinds of situations. I actually had this happen to me. I've only had it happen to me once in a professional environment. It was in a college, in a professional environment, and I did have somebody that was bullying me, and I'd never dealt with it before. It was really a new experience for me. It happened, unfortunately, to my mom multiple times, and she's just a kind person, and people would just take advantage of her. And I'm a pretty nice person too, and I had never dealt with it before, but it didn't leave me feeling very good, and I didn't stay there. So it's not a good environment for anyone to be in. So workplace romances, honestly, this is going to happen. It's going to happen just because people are with each other. They're in a situation where they spend more time with them than they spend with anybody else. And most of the companies I've worked for have discouraged it. If you do work with somebody, they have to make sure that you are reporting to somebody else. You're not reporting to the person that is your supervisor. You have different departments that you're moved to so that you're not under the same rules. They actually will move you in the call center. They moved you to a different call center, so you weren't. There was no possible way that you could report to each other. And then, there can be repercussions to your career. So there's situations that could influence your ability to move up in the company if they feel like you've engaged in an inappropriate relationship. So I think a couple of the rules that the textbook suggests is, when you're at work, keep your communication at work professional. Don't do any of the lovey-dovey thingy. Don't do googly eyes. Keep your hands to yourself. Really keep the work environment. And then use outside messaging for communication. So don't do anything that's, like the text messaging, something like that, rather than a lot of other types of communication with somebody that you're in a romance with. So it's kind of like not throwing it in people's faces is the way I think about it. Just keep it subversive. If you're in a relationship with somebody, that's nice, but just don't throw it in people's faces. Sexual harassment. The big piece about sexual harassment is that it is unwelcome. This oftentimes can impact your employment opportunities. Another piece that often comes with this is that you do want to say to the person that I don't want this. I am not, please stop. Oops. And it can, interfere with your work performance. And this can be intimidating, hostile, offensive. So these are all issues that can kind of show up in the work environment. There are a couple types that you will hear about consistently. The first one is quid pro quo, and that is a this for that. So that's when someone says, hey, if you do me a sexual favor, I will help you get promoted. If you do me a sexual favor, I'll make sure you get this role or this job position. So that's called quid pro quo. And then the hostile work environment is when something is done in the work environment that is related to sexual conduct that is hostile or severe. Pervasive is another word that shows up, and pervasive means that it's happening consistently, or it happens over and over again. So they may not, if you took it to court, it may not go through if it was something that happened one time, but if it happens over and over again, it doesn't have to be the same thing, but something similar, then that there's a lot of money that gets awarded in court cases for these because either it was allowed to happen and someone reported it and no one did anything about it. I think that's usually the most common one that I've heard of in most work situations. All right, that takes care of it. Thank you.